This is the Engage Your Destiny podcast, where your destiny is our mission. Serving our active military, veterans, and families. Welcome to the show.
Hey guys, welcome back to the Engage Your Destiny podcast. I'm Ben Peterson, the CEO and founder of Engage Your Destiny, and it is an honor to be with you again this week. We have an incredible guest that's joining us, Kevin Polosky, who is a 27-year U.S. Army veteran, multiple tours to Iraq, Afghanistan, I assume.
Yep, Kosovo.
Yeah. You were a full bird colonel.
Yep.
You were an infantry officer. You've been a logistics officer. You've been to the Pentagon, recruiter. You've got 3 kids.
Yep.
27, 24, and 18. And you follow Jesus.
Yes.
Man, that's amazing.
Yes.
So, Kevin, welcome to the show.
Thanks. Good to be here.
Yeah. So, you're not in your uniform.
No.
So, hopefully, we can dive into some stuff.
Yes.
Right?
Yeah, much more comfortable this way.
Much more comfortable this way.
Yeah.
So, tell me where you grew up.
So I grew up in California, Northern California, a little town called Danville. We moved around a lot when I was a kid, but mostly mainly within California. My dad was in the phone business.
Okay.
So about every 3 years we moved. But yeah, I spent my high school years in Northern California, and then my college. I went to Fresno State in Central California.
Wow. And what'd you go to college for?
Criminal justice, or pre-army as we call it.
Okay. That's awesome,
Yeah.
man. What did you learn while you were in criminal justice?
So I just thought it was interesting. Right? I've always thought the law was kind of interesting and unique, but I just enjoyed, for me, I hated college. I didn't want to go to college, but my courses were taught by like police officers and correctional officers. So I had to be interested in the topic. Otherwise I would have just never gone to class.
Totally.
Yeah. So my first couple years was not good. And then I found that was something I enjoyed, reading the books. I enjoyed doing the work on it. So that's why I ended up just I thought maybe I'd be a cop. I didn't really have any plans when I went to college. I just went because my brothers and sisters went, and that's just what we were expected to do. So I showed up at college, and I didn't really know what I wanted to do.
What am I interested in?
Yeah.
Yeah.
And so I kind of found it through that. I was like, okay, well, this could be good. So I thought maybe when I graduated, I would do something in the prisons or police officer, but then I ended up taking an Army journey that's lasted me 27 years.
How'd they get you?
So I was on a men's rugby team, and one of the guys I played with was an ROTC recruiter.
Okay.
And so they said, hey, do you want to go to this camp? It's called basic camp. It's, so I wasn't like a full 4-year Army student. I did the summer between my sophomore and junior year.
Yeah.
I went to Fort Knox for 6 weeks for like a little, it's not basic training, but I mean, we had drill sergeants and stuff like that. But so then I went into it and I said, well, this isn't bad. And they were really easy classes, and I needed A's to get my GPA up.
Fair.
So yeah, I wasn't the kid that played with GI Joes, and I wanted to be more of an athlete probably than I wasn't the kid growing up saying I'm going to be a soldier. But those doors just got open for me, and I just walked through them.
Yeah. Wow. So where did you enlist?
So out of Fresno, California. So the way it worked for us is upon graduation from college, the same day we graduated, we get commissioned as a second lieutenant.
Okay.
I spent 3 months still doing college stuff, and then I went to Fort Benning, Georgia in May of 1998.
98.
Yep.
Wow. So this is just a couple years before 9/11.
Yep.
You go to Fort Benning.
I did Fort Benning, School of Boys, for a year. By the time I went through them, I got injured at airborne school, so I had to have some injury time there. But yeah, I went to Bradley Leaders course, and then from there they sent me to Friedberg, Germany, 1st Brigade, 1st Armored Division.
Wow.
Small little caserne outside of Frankfurt.
How'd you like Germany?
We were gone a lot, but we were in Germany for 9/11, so it was kind of interesting in that. So we stayed gone. I liked it at the time. I didn't like the weather. It's kind of rainy and wet all the time. But other than that, it was neat because we were in Germany, so it was a very small caserne. So the minute you left the gate, you were kind of engulfed in that German culture, and I've always been interested in learning about other people's cultures. So I had a great unit. I had great soldiers, and so I enjoyed it. We spent a lot of time between Grafenberg and Hohenfels, and then.
So you started your career as an infantry officer.
I did.
Wow. Mm-hmm. And your first assignment was infantry. Was it mechanized infantry?
Mechanized infantry, yeah.
Okay, in Germany. Mm-hmm. And so now you find yourself in Germany. You're in a mechanized infantry unit. Where is your faith at this point?
At this point, it's good. Yeah, at this point, it's good. So I'm married. I have a young son. So my faith journey is interesting. I grew up Catholic. And through that,
Like devout Catholic or like
Pretty devout. No,
okay.
we went every Sunday. My parents still go to mass. And I have nothing against the Catholic Church. I love the Catholic Church. Yeah. But just kind of my concept of God was this scary thing that I would, whenever I got in trouble, I would go say these set kind of ritualistic type prayers to try to get forgiveness from him. I didn't, and it was my own view of it, but I didn't see it as a God of love. I didn't see it as a God of caring, as a father figure. It was like the high school principal I was very, very afraid of, right? Yeah. And anytime I did something wrong, I would immediately, say a couple Hail Marys or Our Fathers and then move on to the next thing, right? So wasn't a big fan of church because of that. And so when I went to college, I stopped going to church completely. So for about 2 years, I stopped going to church. And then I got invited to a church that was in an elementary school gym. And I remember walking in there going, what? And they drink coffee when they're in church. They had like a guy playing a guitar. I'm like, what is this?
This is nuts.
This is not what I'm used to.
Yeah.
And I was very uncomfortable. But through the pastor there, I really learned a lot. And for me, prayer was the biggest thing because he would be like, well, do you pray? I'm like, well, yeah, I say my set prayers. And he's like, no, do you just talk to God? And I was like, no way. Why would I talk to God, right?
And how old are you when you're having this conversation?
21, 22.
Okay.
And so it was through a lot of Bible reading, through talking with him, being in a small group, a men's small group, that I just kind of was overwhelmed by the love of this is the thing that I've been looking for that I didn't know I was looking for, right?
Yeah.
And I found it. And I would love to say that for the last 27 years it's been the perfect walk, but it's not at all. I've had high highs with Jesus and I've had low lows with Jesus. But just because I turned away from him didn't mean that he turned away from me.
Right.
Right. He was always there with me. It was just my choosing to try to do things my own way or go on my own path.
For sure. So you're in Germany. This
Yep.
is your first assignment. Mm-hmm. Your faith is good.
Yep.
You're walking it out.
Yes.
And how'd you meet your wife?
We met in high school.
High school sweethearts.
Yes.
Wow.
Then she went to college, and then we got married like the year before I graduated.
When was the first time you saw her?
Oh, 1995, 4 maybe.
Yeah. Tell me about it. Like the first time you saw her and were like, whoa, who's that?
She worked next to me.
Okay.
She worked at the store next to me and came in. And so we had kind of, working next to each other, seeing each other every now and again, and started dating. And then I was home for the summer. And then when I went back to college, she eventually moved back down to college with me.
Were you working like a general store?
I worked in a bakery. I made sandwiches. And she worked at at a pet store.
Wow.
Yeah.
Bakery, pet store right next to each other. And she'd come in to get food?
Yeah.
I love it.
Yeah.
And then you guys started dating.
Mm-hmm.
Wow. Got married.
Yep.
And she came with you on the military journey.
She did, but it didn't work out.
I know. We'll get to that.
Okay.
So you're in Germany.
Yep.
Your faith is going well. And what are you learning about leading young soldiers leading up into 9/11?
So I was very fortunate in that I had great non-commissioned officers that, I tell the story all the time. I'm second lieutenant. My platoon sergeant has been in the Army 17 years, so I'm first class Alan Vaughn. And I'm supposed to counsel him, right? And I'm like, what am I doing? And he sat me down and he said, sir, he goes, this is what you tell me. And he wrote his counseling statement out for me to counsel him, right? And so I've just been very blessed and fortunate to have those types of NCOs in my life that it's super intimidating because you're trying to figure out, like, are you a friendly leader? Like, you see like guys like Patton, and then you're I didn't have a leadership identity at all other than the year that I spent, kind of learning about leadership. But leadership's a lot different when you're in the back of a Bradley at 3 a.m. So for me, it was really trying to understand my leadership style, what kind of leader I wanted to be, and then trying to find pieces and parts of other people that I liked and parts that I didn't like. But no, it was really, it is an intimidating thing because as a second lieutenant, you're the dumbest guy there, right?
Oh, for sure.
Right? No one likes you. You have zero respect.
Yeah.
Like wherever you go, people turn away. And so how do you lead through that was pretty unique and interesting for me. But my whole thing was if my soldiers are going to be there, I'm going to be there, right? And so I just tried to be present and they get used to seeing me around. But I didn't ever want to seem like I was above them or that I felt like I was at it, because for me, the only difference is I went to college and they didn't. Like when I see non-commissioned officers, someone paid for my school, someone didn't pay for theirs. I mean, we could so easily have flipped it the other way, right? Based off of how I was raised or brought up. So I've never thought of myself as like, oh, I'm a little bit higher or special because it's just the circumstances that they are.
Yeah. So after being, getting kind of your teeth grinded a little bit, you got NCOs that are supporting you. This is your first assignment. Then 9/11 happens.
9/11 happens.
Where
yep.
were you?
I was in my office, and someone walked in and said, "Hey, they flew a plane into the Twin Towers." And I'm like, "That's weird." Didn't think anything of it, right? Yeah. And then someone else came in and were like, "I think a second plane just hit the Twin Towers." And so we were in this small caserne, and the only TV we had AFN, right? So you didn't have like normal TV. So it was in the medical clinic. So there was like hundreds of us in this medical clinic trying to watch the news and figure out what's going on. And we didn't know what was going on. We knew it was bad. And so at that point, our brigade commander, he was the highest guy on our post, the 06, said, "Hey, everybody go home and kiss your family goodbye because we don't know when we're going or where we're going." So we went home for about 6 hours, and then we got locked on our base they locked the whole base down for all of us for like, 10 or 11 days probably.
Wow. And then what happened?
And then we started planning. We didn't know where we were going to go, but we knew we were going to go someplace. So then we started planning.
So then the mission set is be ready to go to war.
For sure.
And what do we need to prep for, even though we don't know what it's going to be?
For sure. Right. It was be ready to, for my job was be ready to move the brigade to Southeast Asia.
Wow.
We don't know where. Start looking at ports, start looking at boats, start looking at, all that kind of stuff. Because it was just, the only known was that we were going.
And
right?
Why Southeast Asia?
That's just where we assumed it was, where the threat was from.
Wow.
But we didn't know. So.
And you're first lieutenant by now, captain?
Yeah, first lieutenant.
You're a first lieutenant. Mm-hmm. Okay. So you got a little more.
Yeah, got a little bit more. And I'm a staff guy now, so I'm not in a platoon. I was a platoon leader, Company XO for a while, and then I moved. When 9/11 happened, I was an assistant S4, so I was a staff officer at that point.
So now you're in a staff officer position. Mm-hmm. And when was the first time that you deployed?
2000, May of 2000 to December of 2000 to Kosovo.
Wow.
So that's when we thought, there was no deployments there, right? So it's interesting how, like, when I came in the Army, you very rarely saw combat patches, right?
Right.
And then through this generation of soldiers, now almost everyone has a combat patch. And now at the tail end of my career, we're starting to see less and less,
yeah.
right? So we have this whole generation of my generation, which we just stayed at war.
Everyone went to war.
Everybody went to war. We stayed at war. So at the time, Kosovo was a big deal because we were like, oh man, this is the first real deployment since like Desert Storm.
And that was before 9/11.
Yeah, that was before 9/11.
What was happening in Kosovo at the time?
So there was some internal conflict between different cultures. So there's some Serbs and Albanians that were having issues, but we were in a peacekeeping mission.
Okay.
So we went down there to keep the peace.
Yeah.
And
show of force.
Yeah, for sure.
Got it. So then when was your next deployment?
I went to Iraq 04.
04.
May of 04 to May of 05.
And what was your mission while you were there?
I was company commander, and so we ran convoys down Route Irish. So we were running 2 or 3 convoys a day. We were at Fob Falcon, and we would go wherever we had to go, but we had to get fuel and ammo and food and all that stuff. So we were just running Route Irish quite often. So yep.
So there's probably a lot of people that are listening that have never heard of Route Irish. I've been in Iraq, so I'm very familiar.
Yeah. Take
some time to paint the picture of this route, what its purpose was, where it was.
Yeah, it's in Baghdad. It's the main, what we would call, I guess it would be east-west route, right? So you had what they called the Highway of Death, which was the highway that kind of took you into the main city. But inside the city, Route Irish was it was a 4-lane road, 2 lanes going one way. Sometimes they got bigger, sometimes they got smaller. But for us, it connected everything to the airport. And the airport was key because everything came into the airport. So everyone had to go to the airport to get the stuff. As a logistician, we had to go to the airport to get the stuff and then move it back out, right? So it is...
And that's where your 88 mics would be moving things.
Yep. And it is complete chaos. There are lines on the road, but I don't know why. But it's not like traffic stops. It's just you go and you fit in where you get in. And
everyone's driving as fast as they can.
Yeah. And all kind of different vehicles. You have some nice vehicles, some not nice vehicles, big trucks, little cars, all kind of stuff. But yeah.
So Route Irish was an east-west across Baghdad that connected the airport to
where I was at. Yes. Yep.
Yeah.
And it was, like I said, it was a main road that went into the airport. So eventually you always ended up getting on Route Irish at some point if you're going to the airport.
And Route Tampa was the north-south.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. So then on Route Irish, there were, I don't want to put words in your mouth, but there were consistent IED.
Yes.
Yeah, talk to me about that.
Yeah, so it's a consistent threat, right? And so it was an interesting. So I remember I sat in a room one time. I got to sit with a group of people. It was a Korea War vet. It was a Vietnam vet. It was a World War II vet. And it was a Desert Storm vet. And I remember looking at those guys and I was just like, I don't know how you did it. Like, I don't know how you fought that war, right? And then I remember the Vietnam guy looked at me and he goes, I don't know how you did it. He's like, every time you left, you never stopped. Like, you were getting mortared, you're constantly getting rocketed. Like, your war never stopped. Like, we would go to war and then we'd come back and be in somewhat safer conditions. And I guess you just always fight the war that you fight, and you just think yours is easier or not. You know, you watch the stuff about Vietnam, I'm like, holy cow.
Right.
But for me, it was like you almost just I had to convince myself that there's probably a pretty good chance I'm not coming home. And
were you on convoys?
Oh, yeah.
Almost every day?
Most every day, yeah. Yeah, and we were very fortunate. I took 247 there. We brought 247 home.
Wow.
So we were very, very blessed and fortunate. But yeah, it was just the constant. It almost became just normal, right? Which is like, it's so weird that you say that. But like, I remember I got there and the company commander that I was replacing, he was like, he said, oh, I'm going to go on this convoy today. And I said, why are you going on this convoy? And he says, well, the base we're stopping at makes milkshakes, and I love milkshakes. And I was like, you're going to put your life on the line for a milkshake? Like, what are we doing? And then 4 months later, here I am like, oh, are you guys going to the milkshake place? Like, hey, let's go, man. I love those
mentality
milkshakes.
changes,
it
man.
completely changes because you just get in there and it's like, and then my replacement comes in behind me and I'm like, oh, we're going to milkshake place. He's like, what? And so it's kind of funny how it comes full circle. But yeah, you get into it, and it's just being mortared. And the first time you get mortared, you put your stuff on and you're in the bunker, and then by month 4, you're like, ugh.
I'm not putting it
No,
on.
I'm just, if it's my time, it's my time, right?
Yeah.
But it is amazing how it becomes a normal thing for you.
Did Falcon take a lot of incoming?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, we did.
Okay. And then your job was just moving things between the airport and then other locations around the country?
Yeah. Other locations around the country. And then, so we had an armored brigade combat team. So we would have to give them fuel and give them gas. And then we would go and pick all the soldiers up from R&R flights. So basically, if it wasn't a combat related mission, someone would call us and be like, hey, you need to go do this, right? Yeah. And so we were kind of that go everywhere, do everything kind of group, because we had vehicles and we could go, and we didn't have tanks. Yep. So we went a lot. Yeah.
Where was your faith at during that first combat
good.
tour?
So I was good. So I had gone through my divorce. I was over there by myself, but I was praying a lot. I was in church at the local church there. Had a couple of chaplain friends that I was with. So it was still at a good place when I was there.
And with your wife, had you already had your 3 kids?
So it's an interesting story, right? So I had with my first wife, we had a son, Tyler, who's 24. And then I got married the second time. And then with her, we had a daughter, Hannah. And then her oldest son, I adopted.
Got it.
And then I have 2 stepsons, Michael and Tony, from that relationship as well.
Wow. So from your first marriage, what did you learn as you came out of that, going through a combat tour, and then you're exercising your faith? Like, what was God showing you through all that?
And it's a lesson that I suck at. But I have just always wanted to, I pour so much into everything else. Army-wise, I just have always poured myself into the Army. And I've always been like I said, if the soldier's going to be someplace, I'm going to be there. I'm going to be there. And it was always at the behest of my family.
Yeah.
Right. So I always put the job first. And, if there's one thing I could go back and change, it would be that. Because I just always said, well, this soldier needs me, or this leader needs me, or I need to be here for them. When at the same time, there was people in my house that needed me. Yeah. Right. And I wasn't there for them because I decided that I was going to put value in other people, because I always wanted to be that person that was like, oh, well, I'm going to go be there for that soldier. And by doing that, I have lost relations. I wasn't a very good father, wasn't a very good husband, and have lost time with my kids. And for the most part, we're all good. My daughter's great. She's 18. She's going to school in New York. I talked to my son. He's 24. I just saw my oldest son, and the stepsons as well, Michael and Tony. So we're building back together, but I broke it hard, like really hard.
Did you find yourself in situations where you could have been available to them, but you withdrew to go be with the Army?
Yes, a million times. Because it was safe.
Why?
Because it's safe for me. I'm good at it. I'm good at the Army. Like I'm good at being in the Army. Being in that vulnerable place where I have to open up the feelings with my spouse or with my kids, I'm not good at that. So I would go back to where safe was for me and where I'm comfortable, and that's my comfort. Like you could call me tomorrow and say you got to move a million things in 4 hours to go to this place, and I would like, let's go.
Let's figure it out.
Right, let's go. But if you call me tomorrow and say, hey, you need to have a really long emotional talk with your son about becoming a man.
Wow.
That is where I have and still struggle a little bit.
Yeah. How did you learn that? Where did that come from, that inability to not be able to emotionally connect with those around you?
I think for me, it was just, it's where you view your self-worth from, right? And so for me, I viewed my self-worth from the Army and from the military. And I wanted to make my soldiers proud. I wanted to make my family proud. And I just viewed my self-worth in that way. And I could have a vulnerable conversation with a soldier faster than I could have a vulnerable conversation with one of my own kids, which was weird, right? And then my coping mechanism is busyness.
And work.
Is work. I can go to work at 7 a.m. I can come home from work at 8 o'clock at night, and I'm good and I have addictions too, don't get me wrong, but that was my biggest addiction, was staying busy at work. And as long as I stayed busy, I didn't have to think about it. I didn't have to think about how I was ruining my, relationship with my spouse and how I was ruining my relationship with my kids. And I'm doing a good thing. I'm in the Army. I'm helping people, right? So then I can justify it to myself, because it's not like I'm, working at some other job where it didn't, come with this, this thing where I'm like, I'm doing something good, man. I'm helping people, right? So yes, I'm neglecting my own family, but I'm helping this family. So it was easier to get caught up in that.
And to justify it.
Right, to justify it. Because I'm like, well, you can't get mad because I just, helped this young man or this young woman get something that they needed accomplished, right? Or I'm doing something that's a positive, societal, looking at positive. So staying busy in the Army has always been, for my culture at least, that badge of honor. Like, if you're walking down the hallway at 6 o'clock, you're getting silently judged by people, right? Like, why are you not busy enough? Which is insane. And hopefully we're changing away from that. And I think we are changing away from that, which is good. But yeah, I grew up in a culture of busyness, and that's how you knew who was good, was the people that got there early, stayed late, that kind of stuff. Wow. And so,
did you, were you able to make that tight emotional connection with your dad?
So my dad and I get along. Yeah. I don't know about tight emotion. I love him. I talked to him yesterday. So we talk a lot about baseball. Love San Francisco Giants baseball. But no, he is like such a good dude. But he was always that kind of, the take care of the work and take care of the family. But we're not in a very emotional family, I would say. Yeah. Like we love each other. My siblings and all, I get along great. We had family dinners at night and we did all that stuff. But we weren't necessarily let's wear our hearts on our sleeves. We're getting better now. Now that we're all getting older, I think we're getting better now.
But when you're in your 30s and you're trying to lead all these things, that was not safe to do that at home.
I don't know if it wasn't safe, or I just chose not to do it.
Yeah.
Right. So I don't want to make it seem like I'm putting something on them if I called my dad right now and I wanted to have an emotional conversation with him, he would 100% do it. Wow. Right. So I don't want to put that on. It's on me, right? I'm the one that's choosing not to.
You chose it.
Yeah.
That's fascinating. 100%. Great ownership.
Yeah. It's hard. Like I said, man, it's hard. It's been a journey, but.
Has that helped your relationships with your kids that you've owned that? In how you've been healing?
Probably, yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. Now that they're seeing it but again, it's relatively new. So I think there's a waiting game, right? Yeah. It's like, is this really, or is he just going to go back to going back to where it was, right? So I don't want to rush the process. So yeah, I'm sure that if you would ask them, there would be some hesitancy on their part. Of course, like, well, he's been good for a couple months before. He's been good for a year before, right? So, but I just have to walk it every day. It's that whole day by day thing, which I hate. I hate when people like, just take it day by day. It's like, man, no, tell me what to do today and let me get it done.
Show me the hill and let me
go
get it.
Right, let me go get it and then I'll go do something else tomorrow, right? So
it's amazing how fast things move, yet how slow progress really is.
For sure. on that stuff,
Yeah.
right? On that stuff. Because it's interesting, a lot of the stuff I do in my job, it's like, oh, well, we're building the Army at 2030 or the Army at 2040, or our budget cycles is like 4 to 7 years out. So sometimes you just get used to, like, what am I really doing? I don't get a lot of bang for my buck when I'm trying to plan how many tanks the Army's going to have in 5 years, right? You don't ever really get to see a lot of that stuff through fruition. So you would think it would make you grow more patience. But sometimes, like I clean my kitchen a lot because it starts dirty and then it's clean. And I'm like, I enjoy that.
Yeah.
Because I don't get to see a lot of difference a lot of times in what we do, like an immediate change difference, like mowing a lawn. Although I don't have a lawn right now, but things like that I kind of enjoyed because I'm like, man, there's very few things in my life I can look at and be like, I did that, right? It started this way and now it's that way. And to your point, that's this journey thing, man. I want to do that. I want to look at it and be like, okay, well, I was bad. Now I'm good. Now let's move on to the next thing, right? And you can't. You just got to do it day by day.
So your journey started to darken, and it started to get worse.
Yes.
And take me through that. How your journey began the light began to darken.
Afghanistan, 2008 to 2009. I was the hero flight guy. So if someone was killed, my job was to get them home, to process them, to get them from where they were at on the battlefield back to Bagram where we were at. And then from Bagram, we would get them to Dover. And then we would,
logistics.
Yeah. So I was surrounded by so much death. And it became normal for a while. And then it just weighed on me. Like just this weight. Like every day you walk in and we have a whiteboard and you would look on the whiteboard and be like, oh man, there's another one. There's another one. There's another one. Oh, we had 3 today. We had 7 today. Right. And we were losing a lot of kids over there. Soldiers, not kids. But so it just, this constant death was over me. And I didn't understand why God would let that happen. I didn't understand why any of this stuff was going on. So instead of just having the faith and like, all right, well, I'm not God, God's God, and he'll figure it out, I wanted to blame him. And so my solace was I would run 8 miles around that freaking base most nights, and I would argue with him. Like I would stop and just scream at God and be like, why the F are you doing this? Like, why am I here? What am I doing? Like, if this is the point of all of it, right, then what? And so that's where, for me, I didn't get over, so PTSD, right? But I didn't get over it. I didn't seek help for it. I just stayed busy with work. So when I came home, I had all that stuff pent up in me. And like a good soldier, I just tamped it down, right? Tamp it down. Well, then it's going to come out at some point, right? So for me, it was coming out in my relationships at home. It was coming out probably in my relationships with my family a little bit. So I never, through both regular mental health counseling and through my faith, I just tamped it all down. And I just said, wake up and rinse, wash, repeat, do it again.
But it wasn't getting any better.
No, it's getting worse.
So just so I'm clear, so take me through a day. So you're at Bagram. Mm-hmm. You get up in the morning and you would go into your office where there'd be a whiteboard.
Yep.
With the names.
Yeah.
And you oversaw.
So we would have to make sure that those the remains got to Bagram, and then I would be on the phone with the Air Force saying, hey, I need a plane to get this hero home. So I would be coordinating with the Air Force, like, hey, I need this tail number to come over here so I can put the human, because most things when you're dealing with planes, they want 72 hours out. So that's the way we plan, right? So if I want to move something on an airplane, I usually plan it like 5 to 7 days from now because I know when the stuff's going to get there. So anytime that you have to do anything in a tighter timeline, which obviously remains were always a tighter timeline, then that's what we would have to do. So yeah, I would spend a lot of time once we figured out when the remains were going to get to Bagram. Usually the unit would bring the remains. Yeah. At Bagram, we would have a ceremony, distinguished ceremony. So we would bring the remains down. All the soldiers would come out on Disney Drive, it was called, and salute the remains, and then the remains would get on the plane.
And you would be a part of that every time?
Every time. I had to get that plane.
When this remains, which it could be very little is left, or it could be a whole body, mm-hmm. and you would be there facilitating all of these soldiers saying goodbye.
So I would do a lot of that stuff behind the scenes, calling the planes and getting all that stuff, but I was getting beat up all the time because they're like, hey, we need to know when the plane's going to get here because we got to tell people when to be on the road, right? So there was a lot of additional pressure on that too, but yeah, so that was that was, I mean, I did other things, brought people into and out of Afghanistan, so did the deployment stuff and ran some helicopter routes that we managed logistically. But that was the big takeaway of that job that I had. And I was there for 18 months.
18 months every day.
I did a 15-month for deployment, and then I ended up switching to a different unit. So I did an extra 3 months. So yeah, I was paying rent over there.
Every day facilitating people saying goodbye and getting remains back to the States.
Yes.
And that just ate away at your soul.
Mm-hmm. 1,000,000%.
Hey guys, thanks for listening to the Engage Your Destiny podcast. What an incredible story that we are just diving into with Kevin. This was one of the most moving podcasts that we've done in telling someone's true story of brokenness, which we're going to get a lot deeper into episode 2 of the things that Kevin has carried and worked through and walked through with his story and addiction and so many other topics. So don't miss episode 2. Please go and like and subscribe to this podcast so that we can get it out all over the world and support our military veterans and their families. Thanks so much, you guys. God bless.